All right, I'm on page 62. Actually, I think it's probably, I don't know, pretty interesting. Good. Political parties. So, guys, this is going to encompass quite a bit of different information, okay? If you look at topics, political parties, we're going to look at functions of political parties. We're also going to talk about, how we're kind of stuck in this two-party system, okay? And, people are always talking about, hey, we need a third party or something like that. Well, yeah, that'd be great, but there's some problems with achieving that, okay? We're going to look at minor parties and the roles that they play. Minor parties can have quite an impact on our system. We're going to study the history of political parties. So there's an assignment in here. I don't want to give it now because I have too much to grade already. But I'll give it, next week sometime. So that'll be like 18 questions, 18 points, which would be good for you guys. Then we're going to look at voter qualifications. We're going to study demographics, why people vote, why people don't vote, who votes, who doesn't vote, which way different groups of people are more likely to vote. Okay, so we'll study kind of the makeup of the voting rolls. And then we're going to look at polling. We're always hearing about polls, right? Approval ratings and these sorts of things. We're going to study about how those are conducted, kind of look at statistical analysis. And then kind of a fun thing at the end, we're going to look at political advertising. And really, television ads started in the 1952 election when people had TVs. And that was Eisenhower election when he was elected in 52. And we're going to trace some of the more controversial and more effective political ads, presidential political advertisements in American history. Okay, and there's some that are shocking and some that are funny and witty and so forth. And so it's pretty light, guys. This stuff isn't too heavy. So I think you'll enjoy it. So if you look at page 63 just briefly, this is a list of both national and regional local parties that you can find in the United States today. Okay? It's kind of interesting to look at. If you look at current third parties, all right, the Constitution Party, the Green Party, I think some of you probably heard of that. The Libertarian Party, I know you've heard of that. Natural Law, and the Reform Party. These are parties that have nominated candidates for president. Now, getting on the ballot in all 50 states is a challenge. So some of these third parties don't get on the ballot in 50 states. If you haven't want a chance to win, you need to at least be on enough states to reach 270 electoral college votes, if you know what I mean. Okay. Generally, the process is 50,000 signatures by the people of your state in order to get on the ballot. 50,000 signatures. Okay? And if you don't get 1% of the popular vote, the next 4 years later, if you want to be on the ballot again, you got to get 50,000 signatures again. So this is why it's hard for third parties to really break in, because first getting on the ballot in all the states, and then receiving more than 1% of the vote. Okay. So below that, you have current historical minor regional parties that have endorsed candidates either for Congress or for president. And there's some weird ones in there. Those of you that are in history class right now, we talked about this the other day, the American Nazi Party. Okay, you've got the pot party, you've got the marijuana party. What's the difference between the pot party and the marijuana party?
Marijuana is what they call it. Pot is recreation.
No. They're regional. They're regional. So you might have the pod party might be in Mississippi and the marijuana party might be in California. Okay, they're not national parties. Okay, but yeah, I mean the Communist Party's on here, Socialist Party, a lot of socialist parties, huh?
What's the point of a non-national party? What do they do?
Well, that's something we're going to talk about.
What about the vegetarian?
Vegetarian.
That's something we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Isn't there something or like one of the third parties gets like 5% of the votes? They get some sort of funding or something.
They can qualify for, government. If you're a candidate for president, you can choose to raise your own money or go through the I forget what it's called off the top of my head. Public funded. You can get some money through that. Okay. Most candidates don't do that because they can raise more money. You can't do both. You know what I mean? You can do one or the other. Okay. So, but most candidates can raise, because of the parties, they can raise a lot more money than that.
Tam, how's it going?
Hello. Did you get everything figured out, Tam? Because
Yeah.
you took off like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know.
Everything all right?
The office wanted me to grab something, and it was in my car, so I got it.
Like your.
It was a form that I had to sign, my parents had to sign, so.
Okay.
And so you took over the grandson.
All right. So the first thing you're going to put in your notes. The first thing you're going to put in your notes is a definition of a political party. So section 3, political parties, political parties. And here's just a basic definition. Are you ready? A group of persons who seek to control government. A group of persons who seek to control government. In order to bring about, control government in order to bring about the adoption of certain public policies and programs. To bring about the adoption of certain public policies and programs. Political parties. And you're not going to believe this, Grace. There are 5 functions of political parties. What do you need repeated?
Definition of
Group of persons who seek to control government in order to bring about the adoption of certain public policies and programs. That's pretty self-explanatory?
Yeah.
Okay? There are 5 functions. How many functions?
5.
5 functions of political parties. Can you name 2 on the test?
Putting up
See. Okay. The first, nominating function. Nominating function. Okay. Remember how we were talking about factions when Federalist number 10 with James Madison? Okay. When we talked about factions, oftentimes political parties is the first thing students think of. This is what sets political parties apart from interest groups, is that they choose candidates. They nominate candidates, okay? So they're nominating means choosing candidates, okay? They weed out the bad candidates and select the strong candidates. Okay, so let me just describe this for you. In 2016, for the Republican Party, there were like 16 candidates that wanted the nomination for the Republican Party. There were 5 for the Democrats. Okay, so you had names like Carly Fiorina, Ben Carson, Ted Cruz. Who else? Chris Christie, Jeb Bush. Who else? Of course, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, okay? John Kasich, the governor of Ohio. Did Huckabee run this time? No, he didn't run. Huh? Rand Paul. All right, good. So, listen. The process of nominating a candidate. Now, did the Republican Party want Donald Trump to be its nominee? No, they wanted Jeb Bush to be their nominee. Okay? So the Republican Party had to deal with the voters. Now, what does this really say about the Republican Party and how strong it is or how weak it is? Because they did not want Donald Trump to be the nominee. But the people that are registered as Republicans in this country, and some Democrats, said, no, this is the guy we want to represent the Republican Party to take on Hillary Clinton. Wait a second. They have a nominating process in the Democrat side too, right? Who did the Democratic Party want? They wanted Hillary Clinton, and that's exactly what they got. Okay? Who did many of the voters for the Democrats want? Bernie Sanders. But the party, as we know, because it's been uncovered, the fix was in for Hillary. They did not play this game fairly. And I will get into that. And it is something that, if you're a Democrat, you have to be very upset about. Okay? Because the party leaders, the elite in the party, wanted Hillary. But the grassroots, the people who were showing up in droves, getting excited, going out and canvassing neighborhoods, trying to get people involved in politics, were the socialists, the Bernie Sanders followers. Okay? Free education through college. Free health care for everyone. Okay? That's what people got excited about. Okay? And so, but the Democratic Party basically said, no, we've anointed Hillary. It's her turn. Okay? And so the fix was in. Which, you know, if you're a Democrat, you got to be kind of upset about. I mean, the process should play out. And the Republican side, it showed how the process can play out. Now, when the Republicans nominated Trump, did anybody think that Donald Trump could win? No.
I did.
But Hillary had so much baggage. I mean, she had so much baggage. So it made it kind of a, hey, maybe this crazy guy has a chance. Okay? So it's, the process is very interesting, but this is really, so like when we're saying for the 4th District of Kansas, okay, so when we draw the state of Kansas, and we have 4 representatives, okay, we live in the 4th District, and we are represented by Ron Estes, okay? This is our district, okay, and then you got the 2nd and the 3rd, and then this is the 1, okay? This is all broken up based on population, right? So when 2018 comes around, I don't know if there'll be any Republicans that challenge Ron Estes, but there will be several Democrats, maybe, that will run to try and defeat the incumbent. The incumbent is the person that's already in office, that will try and defeat Ron Estes. Okay? But we'll have what's called a primary election or a caucus to determine who is going to run against Estes. Or there might be other Republicans that challenge Ron Estes. And so the parties will help set up those elections and try and figure out who we're going to nominate, okay, as the candidate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Number 2. Yeah, Grace.
Like the elitist party people, like how do they get there?
Well, we're going to talk about the leadership of the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, and they kind of run the show. But it's also the big money in the parties. People that are big donors, you know, they have to say, hey, we want Hillary. Bernie's not electable because he's a socialist. Let's go with Hillary. It's her turn. That sort of thing. So the party leadership. I mean, essentially, guys, if you look at what happened in 2016, the Hillary campaign was basically running the Democratic National Committee. They were funding it and they were running it. But she hadn't got the nomination yet. It was bad. People passing, CNN commentators passing the questions, the debate questions, to Hillary before the debate so that she's prepared against Bernie. Yeah, I mean, there's some shenanigans. Shenanigans. Okay. The informative function. Informative function is number 2. Now this is pretty much going by the wayside for the parties, and it's really because of technology. Okay, to provide information to voters on candidates. That's what the parties, one of the functions of the parties is. Okay. This, because of the internet, the parties are no longer one of the major places where you get information about candidates. Because you can go anywhere on the internet and find information on these folks. Okay? And so the parties, their role here isn't really much of a factor. But that is one of their functions, is to provide information on candidates. Number 3. This is called the governmental appointment function, or you could just say appointment function. So, the President of the United States gets to appoint ambassadors. Am I going to spell that with a T or a D?
D.
Yours, yes. And I think I spelled that right. Yeah, okay. Ambassadors, cabinet. Okay, judges. Okay, so the president and governors, okay, get to appoint these types of people. All right? And where are you going to find these people to fill these positions? Now, if you're looking for judges, right? Well, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're going to want to appoint judges that think like you, right? So where are you going to find those people? Well, the political parties, the Republican Party, Democratic Party, they have lists of people that are loyal to the party, lists of people that are qualified to fill these positions, okay? And the party kind of provides that. The people to run for office, the people to be appointed to fill positions in government. Okay, so the party kind of is like a, what do you call those? Well, your contacts list. Okay, they used to call it a Rolodex. Okay, a Rolodex of names that you can pull from to fill positions in your party. So like if, let's say Ron Estes decides not to run for re-election. All right, well, who are we going to get to run for the 4th District for the Republicans? Okay? Well, there's people that are involved locally in the party that maybe they're a state legislature, maybe they're a state senator, maybe they're the mayor or somebody, a former mayor or somebody like that. Okay? The 4th, and this is an important one, the 4th function of a political party is the watchdog function. The watchdog function. Now, this is really relegated to the party that is not in power. Okay, the party that is not in power is going to criticize, keep the party in power in check, investigate them, make sure they're not breaking the rules. Okay, and you know the Republicans have control of both the House and Senate and the White House. Now, the House and the Senate do have investigations going on right now into Russian collusion in our elections, okay, or Russian interference in our elections. And we know for a fact that the Russians were trying to interfere in our elections, Okay, we know that they were had fake Facebook accounts, fake Twitter accounts, and so forth. Yes.
Even if they were trying, even if they were hacking and like voting, because they'd be voting for Trump, I'd assume.
Well, if you look at it, and they've done a lot of studies on, because they're doing these investigations, the information's coming out. About 10 days ago, some stuff came out. A lot of it was pro-Trump, but there was also pro-Hillary. So, do you remember the day after the election, there was a women's march? And then there were some marches in New York. These rallies just started popping up after the election of Trump. Well, we find out that, these are all organized on social media, right? We find out that one of the rallies, big rallies in New York, where they marched from one place to Trump Tower, was organized by Russians against Trump. So, and what they're finding out is what the Russians are trying to do is cause discontent in our society.
Oh.
Like division.
It wouldn't matter because Hillary won't stop the vote anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it was just, the election was over. It just kind of shows they're trying to create division in our society. I would say it would be, I think, Kaylee, it'd be fair to say that based on the Twitter and Facebook stuff, that they favored Trump more than they did Hillary, but there was pro-Hillary stuff in there as well. But I think the investigation, they're just trying to see discontent in our society in Russia. The Russians are. Okay. There is some evidence that they tried to hack into voting systems in states, but there's no evidence that they succeeded at this. Okay. I have heard that some states are going to start returning to paper ballots because of this fear. Okay. I like that personally. I like the paper ballot. But anyhow, the party out of power. So even though Trump is a Republican and the Republicans control these committees in the Congress that are investigating, they are looking into the collusion of the Trump campaign and Russia. Okay, and obviously, guys, I don't know if you're following this. There's a special counsel set up. Okay, so Robert Mueller, who's the former head of the FBI, has a special counsel. It's this weird thing that they can do in the government. They give him as much money as he wants to investigate something that Congress wants them to investigate. And so they're looking into this. Mueller he's indicted a few people. He indicted 13 Russians a couple weeks ago that were in this country. They were given money from the Russian government to, seed discontent. And now we're never going to be able to arrest those people and put them on trial because they're not here anymore. They're not in the country any longer. Okay. And then there was a couple Trump officials that were in the campaign that are under indictment. Means they're being charged with a crime. It has nothing to do with the Trump campaign colluding with Russia, because it's kind of like a fishing expedition. You go out and you never know what you're going to catch, and they're catching them on some other things like tax fraud and that sort of some of these Trump officials, Trump campaign officials. Okay. Or lying to the FBI, which General Flynn, who was going to be his national security advisor, and was for a few weeks, lied to the FBI.
Do you really believe that the FBI is watching us?
Watching what?
Do you really believe that the FBI is watching us on camera?
No, that's the NSA. The National Security Agency. They're probably watching this right now.
Is that technically a crime for
Should I flip them off?
What? There were some Russian immigrants who were found to have been sent here just cause just kind of disrupt the peace. Is that even technically a crime if they're just causing political unrest? Because I could do that on social media.
Well, if they're foreign agents, you know what I mean? Like foreign agents, there's probably, I think there's some laws against that. Yeah.
I'm Mexican and I caused dissent on social media.
No, you're not. You're not Mexican. Huh?
Do you think I'm
Are
Mexican?
you a U.S. citizen?
No.
Well, then you're not Mexican.
Do you think I'm Mexican?
Come on, Kaylee.
Nice.
What, are you Lithuanian? No.
That's Mr. D, right?
You're an American citizen.
I'm also Irish.
And I cause discontent too. And I'm Swedish. Okay?
And Irish.
What?
Do I look Mexican?
It's the Ebrights.
Mr. Ebert?
I don't know. I need to do the DNA thing. Huh?
Do you think I'm
Go
Mexican?
through the DNA thing.
I don't want the government to get my DNA. What?
Do you think I'm Mexican?
Cameron Villa. I don't know what you are. You?
I'm Exo-Asian.
Yeah, I see some Asian.
I'm Irish too.
Exo-Asian? What did you say? Mexo-Asian. Okay, so tell me about that.
My dad's half Mexican, half Irish. And my mom is straight from
Vietnam?
Vietnam.
Straight out of
My
Vietnam.
grandma is like straight white, like blonde hair, blue eyes.
Who is?
My grandma.
Okay, on your dad's side. So she married a Mexican man.
Yeah, and then she was like shunned from her family because.
She married a Mexican man.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Nicholas,
Nicholas, you're half Mexican, half Vietnamese.
Want to know real
Okay. All right. So the NSA is watching, so be careful what you say. Now, the fifth and final function of political parties is the practical function. The practical function.
What's practical?
Yeah, exactly. Now, in an overall...
I think we skipped one.
No, he didn't.
No.
Nominating and appointment watchdog.
Okay, practical. In an overall picture of our political system, parties help organize it. Okay? Nowhere in the Constitution does it explain how this is going to happen. Okay? So political parties are formed by like-minded folks that want to win elections and help run the government. They tend to weed out extreme positions. Okay? It doesn't always work, but it does tend to weed out extreme positions. So the chances of getting a communist elected or a fascist elected or some radical position getting into our system, the parties tend to weed that out. Okay? And I understand. There's varying degrees of admiration or distaste for our current president. Okay, there's this room. There's varying degrees of all that. Okay, but there are people in this country that really think that Donald Trump is some type of maniacal maniac that is going to start a third world war and this sort of thing. Okay, now I don't know if you recall the president calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man. Okay, and the media throwing a conniption fit, saying that this is going to start World War III. He also said when Kim Jong-un said something about he has a button he can push and take out Guam or whatever, and then Trump said, well, I have a bigger button and mine works. And people like, this is not diplomacy, right? This is not going to work. Well, guess what? What did we find out yesterday?
It worked.
Kim Jong-un is not talking about slowing down his nuclear program. He's talking about disarming his nuclear program. Now, this is a communist dictator. And if we learned anything from the 20th century, you don't trust communist dictators, okay? This man is evil, okay? Understand that, okay? So when the media was fawning over his sister that was at the Olympics in South Korea, when they were fawning all over her and criticizing Mike Pence, the vice president, when he was there, remember, she is a family member of this family that is responsible for horrible human rights abuses every day in North Korea. Okay, so when the media is like, oh, Kim Jong-un's sister is here. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Okay, well, remember who she is and who her brother is. I don't care. So, Now, is there going to be anything? They're supposed to meet by May. Where are they going to meet? What are they going to discuss? Now, one thing Trump has said, I'm not giving up anything on this to get the talks. It's not like we're bargaining just to get the talks. It's like we are not going to stop the sanctions on North Korea. We are not going to stop our military exercises with South Korea. So you want to meet and talk? Okay, let's meet and talk. All right. I can tell you there's a history here with North Korea. His father, Kim Jong-il, and then his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, okay, have presidents since Eisenhower have been dealing with this family. Okay? And to this point, nothing has really worked. All right? So this will be the first time Kim Jong-un has met, not with just the President of the United States, but the foreign head of state of any country. Nobody's ever met with this man. So people are like, well, Trump better be careful because he's sly and he's really smart. And what? This guy's never met with another head of state before. So Trump, the art of the deal, the negotiator, let's see what happens. Okay? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where they meet, what the circumstances are. It's going to be crazy. I mean, it's going to be, front page news. Okay? And who knows? Between now and May, some crap might happen and, they don't meet. All right. So what time we got? We got 7 minutes? What? What? All right. Write this down. Two-party system. We are entrenched. We are entrenched. Write that next. Do a dash. We are entrenched in a two-party system. And I'm going to give you 4 reasons why. How many? 4. 4. And we're going to do 1 today, before, or maybe 2, before the vote. Okay. 1. History. History. The first 2 political parties were Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Have been that way ever since. That's our history. Okay? Now, that's not really the practical reason, but it's just kind of who we've always been. The second one is similar. Okay? So just a similar is force of tradition. Force of tradition. Or in other words, inertia. Where's my science geeks? Kramer. Inertia. See, this is called cross-curricular learning. Science, government class. Okay. So, an object that is set in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. Wow. Did I just pull that out of my brain? Okay. So, what's the outside force? Well, there hasn't been one. Like we would have to change from a presidential system to a kind of a parliamentary, more parliamentary system. We'd have to change our electoral process. Okay. The last 2 on Monday. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.